Welcome. Glad you guys all made it today. This is going to be a fun one. This topic got me really excited for a lot of reasons. I think mostly the reason it got me excited was because of the actual name. The role of the SDR is dead. Just out there. And we had a lot of feedback, as you might imagine. In no particular order, I had David Delaney of Tenbound sending me a message in sheer panic that the role of the SDR was dead. Of course, that was tongue-in-cheek. But of course, he of his Tenbound conference and everything to do with SDRs, that has some concern for him that possibly the role was dead. I had another email just this morning. I happened to get it. I was gone on a week's vacation, so I'm coming back, catching up in emails. And the email said, "What is an SDR?" And I go through the whole email invite, and sure enough, we actually didn't define SDR in that particular email. Meant sales development rep. So I had to say sales development rep. Sorry about that. And they wrote back, "Yeah, well, I looked it up. I know it now. I'm going to be there." I love those kind of emails where they're excited to be there. But regardless, the role of the SDR is dead. That's the declarative. You will be the judge today if this is true. And I'm joined by a very incredible co-panelist, whom you're going to meet shortly. And he and I are going to have a mini debate. I know he's firmly on one side of the discussion. I'm going to play a little bit of both sides. Full disclosure, I don't think the role of the SDR is dead, but I do definitely think it's evolving. And that has consequences and implications. So today we're going to talk about that. Now, we're often asked, where do you get your ideas for your content? And this one, like many of them, came from LinkedIn, where actually it was brought forth by one of the many people I follow. And it had incredible comments and engagements and lots of opinions. And I knew that topic was a winning topic because lots of people have lots of opinions. And here we are. Funny though, it's hard to sometimes get people to get on air and actually say the role of the SDR is dead. So today's going to be a fun conversation. My name is Darryl Praill, folks. If you thought you're coming here to learn about the role of the SDR is dead or not, you're in the right spot. I'm with VanillaSoft, the world's #1 sales engagement platform. Check us out at VanillaSoft.com. That's the only commercial you're going to get today. That's it, full set. Now, if this is your first time joining us in a webinar, I'm going to go to the next slide. It's going to give you some insights on the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement are straightforward. They're simply that we're broadcasting this as you see, and you can chat in the chat window, which is to the right of the viewer as you see it right there. And just all you got to do is just say, register as a guest, type in your name, and boom, you can chat on the online conversations. We encourage you to do that. Now, if you attend our webinars on a regular basis, I actually encourage you to sign up for a live account, because then you never have to sign in ever again. But that's where the chat conversation is going to be taking place in real time. Often the best fun is not what's said here between me and my guests, it's what's said there in the chat window. So please do that. But because you're chatting with text, that kind of implies that we can't hear you, only you can hear us. But not to worry, if you like this and you want to revisit the content, share it with your colleagues, we're going to send you a link to this recording in a couple of days. You can watch it on demand. In the meantime, if you have any other questions, you don't want to use the chat function, but you want to use social media, just go to Twitter. Hit us up on @VanillaSoft, and we'll get your comments and questions, and we'll bring your point of view into the live chat conversation and respond on Twitter too. So that's all you need to know. On my next slide, number 3 of the deck, I get to introduce you to this kick-ass guy named Martin Stevens. Now, if you don't know Martin, you're going to meet him shortly. He is in a slightly different time zone than I. My math says he's about 14 hours or so ahead of me. So hats off to this fine individual for being, shall we say, committed to the cause to have this conversation. Let me introduce to you Martin Stevens, founder and CEO of Pipeline Doctors. Martin, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. It's early morning. It's still dark outside in Sydney, Australia. I've got my cup of tea, whereas you're on water. I'm all good, though. Ready to go. Let's talk about the evolution of the SDR and why it's all of a sudden a bit of a bastard child.
All right, well, let's kind of set the stage. On our next slide, we put the question out there, is the role of the SDR dead? Now, before we start going into this, Martin, I'm just going to ask you point blank. What's your answer? Is the role of the SDR dead?
The way it's going, yes.
The way it's going, yes. Okay, so clearly we're going to explore that, but why do you think it's dead? Like, what has changed that has, like, has your, I don't even know where to start. Clearly, that's not always been your opinion. I'm going to assume that you were firmly in the camp that the SDR was a critical role. Is that part correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a critical role, and it's a role that needs to be in the sales locker 100%. It's just what we've done, SDRs, what we've asked them to do, whom we've asked to be an SDR. That's what I'm saying. The evolution of what we've done with this role has been horrific. Like an awful lot of things in sales, we've taken a really, really good idea and bastardized it because we're cheap. So all we've tried to do is save money where we possibly can. And we've ended up with kids straight out of college being the front line, talking to our customers, introducing our solution and our product. These are the worst possible people we could have picked to introduce ourselves to our customers. And yet that's how this has evolved. It's insane.
Okay, we're going to stop you there because I'm going to go to our next slide, which kind of builds up of what you just said. And our next slide opens it up beautifully. It says, do we really understand the role of today's sales development rep? You just made a very profound statement. You have said, if I'm paraphrasing, we are putting the absolute worst people in our company in that role to represent our company and our offerings. And you're saying that, have I got you right?
100%. The worst people. So the very worst.
The worst. So why are they the worst? Why are they the worst?
Because they are junior people. They're wet behind the ears. Why have we done that? Because they are cheap. We get them straight out of college. We have decided that the SDR role is a junior sales role. So actually, it's no longer an SDR. It's an SQR. They're sales qualifying roles. That's all they are. Because the people that we employ to do this can't develop their market. They have no idea how to talk to clients to develop the concept of problems they might be facing. So all they can actually do is qualify their reps. They're SQRs, they're sales qualifying reps. They ask a certain amount of BANT questions, budget, authority, need, and timing. Once they get those 4 positive answers, done. My role here is done. I have qualified. So they're sales qualifying reps. They're not, we've taken the development out of SDR. It's mental. When did we do this? Why did we think this was a good idea? So the actual role itself of developing our market is absolutely spot on. If you believe in the division of labor, which of course you should, it's been around for hundreds of years. It's a basic economic theory. Yes, of course you should be splitting jobs to create more efficiencies. And the business development role needed to be split because the way buyers have evolved, they don't need business development managers the way they used to. They can get their information from all sorts of places. And it makes a business development manager's, the hardest part of his role is finding new prospects because they don't want to talk to him anymore. So the best thing to do is to split that role. So we had the right idea. Aaron Ross, if you believe that he was the guy that made it popular back in Salesforce at the turn of the century, he had exactly, get people to find your prospects and get them lined up as meetings so that they could meet your business development manager, so that he could take on the rest of the sales process. It's just that somewhere along the line, as I say, we got cheap. We decided that we just needed these frontline people to ask a few qualifying questions and forget about the development of your market. And that is where, as you say, the role has evolved, but it's evolved horrifically. We've done it wrong. And if we carry on this line, you can bet your backside SDRs will die, and they'll die quickly. And the people that will kill them will be our prospects, our customers. They don't like them.
So let's look at the role. Okay, you've alluded to it, and we're going to hit some terminology things so we are all level set. So I've heard you refer to today's SDR sales development rep as a sales qualifying rep at SQR, wonderful term, because there's no actual development going on. And I've heard you say, the division of labor is that the SQR or the SDR for this discussion is meant to qualify and pass it on to the business development rep, also known as an account exec, so a BDR or an account exec. And the premise being that the BDR, the account exec, is the more seasoned, more experienced sales professional who knows how to actually qualify and truly develop the problem, explore to the discovery, and try to map your solution to their problem, such that you can understand who are the participants in the sales cycle, who influences the decision, yada, yada, yada. And if they do their job right, when the BDR gets involved or the AE gets involved, at that point in time, the theory is it's something you would put onto a forecast because they've actually qualified it, and it's forecast. It may only be at 10%, but it would be on the forecast, and now away they go and chase it to close. In the traditional sense of sales development, I had this conversation recently. It was an interesting conversation, and I'm going to share this because not everybody may know this, and others may think this is incredibly obvious, and sometimes it's in fact so obvious that you don't realize others don't know it. Sales development, if you were actually just to Google sales development definition, many experts out there will say the sales development is literally just the process of identifying a lead and engaging with them at the front end of the sales process to physically, as you said, Martin, do you have, budget, authority, need? I'm using a BANT analogy. It can be any kind of acronym you want. Do you have a need? Do you have a desire? Away we go. And that is it. Many people listening to this right now are going to be shaking their heads going, sales development, that is the development of sales. That's from start to finish. So for clarity, the SDR role is exactly that, just developing it. And yet you're saying it's qualifying. So that says, Martin, that we don't understand the role, or we do understand it and we're intentionally ignoring that definition and limiting them to only doing qualification.
Yeah, so we do understand it. It right in the very beginning, but the reason we've bastardized it is because we're cheap. Simple. We've decided that the initial development, either finding prospects that meet our criteria, is the be all and end all of life, and it can be done by very cheap people at the beginning. So as a consequence, we have forgotten about introducing people within our target market to the problem, asking questions to develop an understanding of, do they understand the problem that we, our product, our service, help solve? Because you should have a niche target market. Your target market should be full of people that could and should be interested in your product or service. They should ultimately have a problem or the opportunity that you can help solve. So everyone that you should talk to should be within your target market, and they should at some point within their lives be in the market to buy your product. So that means that every single person you speak to should be developed to some degree, not just qualified. And what we do is simply qualified. We hunt for the 3% that are ready to buy and ready to have a meeting now. There's only 3%. And the 97% of your target market that are not ready to buy, we discard them. We're not interested in them, because SDRs don't get KPI'd to develop their market. They get KPI'd to hold meetings. That's what they get KPI'd on. That's what they get paid on. So as a consequence, SDRs are only interested in setting meetings with the 3% that understand their problem, have defined their problem, and understand that the problem is acute enough that I need to speak to somebody now. That's a qualifying role. That's not developing the rest of your market. The sales development rep, if we go back to how it was intended and what we need to get back to, is there to talk to your entire market. If they don't understand their problem, you need to introduce the problem. Tell them what other people like them are experiencing at the moment, and then finesse and develop them until such time, nurture them, if you will, until such time as they are ready to have that meeting. We don't care about the 97%. The SDRs, literally, if the moment they don't qualify, out. I'm not bothered about you. You're dead to me. So they focus 100% on just the 3% that are ready to have a meeting. They don't develop, they qualify. That's the issue.
All right.
So we understand the role. We're just doing it wrongly because we've employed the wrong people to do it.
All right. So many would agree with you. Many would suggest, and we're going to go through some of these next, that the sales process has evolved because the buyer has evolved, because technology has evolved, and that whole sales qualification step, that role, that SQR, as you describe, which is pervasive when we talk about the SDR, it's the same as an SQR in this discussion, is no longer needed. That we just don't need that individual. And we could, if we could do that qualification up front, we could jump right to an account executive, a BDR, a true sales development role and activity. So let's go to the next slide and talk about how technology is causing this to be the case. I think, for example, I think you can eliminate many of the SDRs today, the traditional role of the SDR, simply by using classic tools such as bots and live chat to do that qualification. And many people would be happy with that role, you know, and the bots can do all of that in real time. The bots can actually qualify you and ask you all those qualifying questions you would have right away. And then, and to your point, if you don't answer the questions right, do you have budget, do you have authority, do you have a need, time frame? Again, I'm just using BANT for simplicity. Swap you off to a nurture pool, and the other 3%, to your point, Martin, then get flipped off to a true business development rep or an account executive. That alone, and they can do that on your website, they can do that in chat, they can do that in email. All of that can be 100% automated, therefore eliminating the role. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. AI is coming. So there's a couple of people, Tony Hughes has done a fantastic article on the way technology is going to, over the next 10 years or so, really impact sales. And one of the big people that he says this is going to impact is SDRs. The role that SDRs fulfill at the moment in just qualifying, 100%, a bot will eradicate an SDR. Absolutely eradicate them. SDRs can ask the most basic of questions. That's all they're trained to do, because that's the moment they get, okay, so the moment an SDR can start thinking outside the box and understanding and delving really into problems and be able to put those into a buyer's context, he knows he's ready to, or she's ready to go on and be an AE. When they start out, all they can do is ask qualifying questions. AI will be able to do that very soon, very soon. So what's the point in having them qualified? Then you go back to the original point that, yes, there is still a place for what we call an SDR to develop the rest of the market. So what I mean by that is, what about your people within the target market? You know, they could and should have the problem that you help solve, but they haven't found your website yet. There's 97% of those. So those people need developing. They need introducing to the problem that people like them are having and its implications. So they haven't found your website. All those people that have found your website, SDRs, the role that we do, the qualifying SQR role, it'll be pointless. There'll be something cheaper called a chatbot that can do the job a hell of a lot better and cheaper than you are. So an SDR is then going to have only one thing he can do: develop the problem, nurture the problem for the 97% that are not yet ready to meet. Because quite frankly, the role that you're fulfilling at the moment, What's the point in you? Soon enough, an AI is going to be able to do that, a chatbot 100%. So there's two things. Technology is actually, I mean, it will eradicate SDRs as we know them. But equally, we have two opportunities. One is to use the social phone to perfect our outreach, personalize our outreach. It's a fantastic opportunity to really personalize outreach and therefore go for that 97%. You know, the technology is there to enable us to engage and personalize the 97%. So we should be talking to them. So we've got technology there that's damn well going to help us. So do we employ the social phone to look for quotes and comments of the actual person that we're going to be speaking to? Rarely. There's somebody called Beck Holland at G2. She's teaching this. It's fantastic. But for the rest of us, we don't bother. We're KPI'd on calling 80 phone calls a day. So that's what we do. We don't bother with the social phone. We just smile and dial. And we aim for the 3%. But that's on a good day. What do we really do as SDRs? And why do people talk about the silent sales floor? Well, because we also take technology as SDRs and we've literally gone to the lowest common denominator we can find. And that is mass market emails, semi-personalized bullshit. It's horrible. It's horrible to be on the receiving end of. Thank God our spam filters are able to pick up most of this these days so that we don't have to see it. But we've taken technology and we've literally gone as quickly as we can to the absolute bottom of the barrel with it. So SDRs now, they don't pick up the phone. No, they just spam the shit out of their target market time and time and time again in these sequences. And when we got to 27 or 35 sequences, eventually somebody's replied and said, stop spamming the hell out of me. Somebody said that LinkedIn has become the cesspool of spam because that's what it is. Because we find people on LinkedIn, we set them up in a sequence, and then we just bombard the shit out of them until we just irritate them. But what an SDR does, he never picks up the phone until finally, we've just sent our first 19, 25, 32 of the sequence of spam emails, and eventually somebody has actually reacted. And the moment they react, an SDR, oh, you reacted, you downloaded a white paper, you reacted to my email. Yeah, I reacted because you're a pain in the backside. Go away, stop spamming me. That's what technology, that's how SDRs use technology. That they might say they don't, but they do. That's how they use the technology. And again, it's it's the people on the receiving end that are going to decide whether they appreciate this way of using technology and whether they appreciate SDRs. And we're on the receiving end, you're on the receiving end, I'm on the receiving end. And quite frankly, when was the last time you replied to a semi-personalized outreach? It's a nonsense.
I'm to the point now when I get a LinkedIn connection request, this blows me away, where it's not like, hey, Darryl, how are you? We seem to be in the same circles and would love to follow you or whatever. Something that's at least a half-ass attempt at connecting. Simply says, hi, Darryl, we do this and this and this and this and this. And that's their connection request. So I'm like, okay, so this is nothing to do with me. This is all about you. And you just want to use me as a transaction. And I go, no, go away. I'm not accepting that request. That's just lame. We literally, our last webinar we just did was on how to stop sending shitty emails, was the exact name of the webinar because it's so bad. But with that said, there is a purpose. We started off the webinar by saying the purpose of the SDR is to fundamentally do the division of labor. And as you understand, there's an opportunity. And yes, we're sending the wrong people. Yes, they're our most junior people. Yes, they don't know enough about the company or the product. Yes, they don't have much life experience to be able to connect with them, with the prospects, and connect with them, understand them, and qualify them. So we know that's a problem. We do know, however, that AI and bots and live chat and everything else have the ability to at least partially eliminate the role of the SDR. But you hit on one thing, which was the phone. So these sequences, these cadences, these playbooks, call it what you want. It's 7 touches in 7 days, 14 touches in 28 days, whatever. It's a combination of email, phone, and social touches. Phone, though, is a big part of it. The phone is not dead. We just did a study. Over 2,000 executive buyers are in combination with the Telfer School of Management. And the phone was still, it was number 2 behind email, and it was a close. And as the deal progressed, the phone got more and more and more and more important. So the phone is, if you will, it's one third of the touches minimally in those sales cadences. Do you not need an SDR to do the phone, or can you eliminate that and say, we're just going to go focus on social and email, let the bots and AI handle it, and only when there's a nibble do we physically pass it off to an actual account exec to pursue?
In a way, this is my own personal gain. In a way, I almost hope Tony Hughes is exactly right. There's a silent sales floor. I'm phone first. I do the SDR role. You know, I'm on the phones every day but Monday. But my belief is the only time I send an email, it's not quite true, but really the only time I send an email is when I have phoned somebody and they say, send me some information. I obviously try and not send the information and use that as the objection that it is. But I don't spam people. I refuse to. So I don't set up cadences. I believe in calling people's cell phones, mobile phones, whatever you want to call them. And that's the outreach that I use. Phone is absolutely the best, the quickest way to engage buyers within your potential buyers within your market. No ifs, buts, maybes. Social's great. Social's great for the social phone to understand what you should be saying to engage at the beginning of a phone conversation. Social takes so damn long to get the engagement. Why are we wasting so much time doing it? So I'm for social, don't get me wrong. And I love social, but it's the social phone. Social enables you to have great phone conversations. Email, look, I know I'm not a fan. Look, I will use it when I literally cannot get a cell phone number. I will use it. It takes an awful long time to do a proper basho email. I'd rather just go on to the next customer or the next prospect that has a cell phone. The phone is more crucial now than it's ever been. And it's easier to get people now that we can get Lucia's, etc., that have got people's cell phone numbers. People crave one-to-one conversations, and we can have them. We can have really insightful one-to-one conversations because of the social phone. It's almost more important now than it's ever been before. But ask yourself, as a buyer, do you want to be phoned by some wet behind the ears, SDR that's fresh out of college, that can talk about their products and can talk about their company, because that's all they've been trained to do? But do they understand the problems, the nuanced problems, and the context of my problems as I'm sitting here as a potential buyer? They can't have that conversation. And that is where buyers get frustrated. The moment they want to talk about their problems, how other people have seen problems play out, the implications, and SDR just says, can we go back to talking about my product, please? It's got this feature. It's got that benefit. No. I don't want to talk about your damn product. So I had this post the other, sorry, I'm ranting. I get on a roll.
No,
I had a post the other day that said SDRs should not be given any product training. Zip. Don't teach them about your products at all. Just spend 3 months talking about problems. 100% problems. Yep. I know it's insane. I know it's mad. Of course it's mad. I mean,
I've seen similar posts and I love that post.
But,
yes.
Yeah. But I mean, realistically, because we teach SDRs about the product, its features, its benefits, our company, how we evolved, we might, if we're really good, give them a success story, an origin story. Good. But then they're dead. After that, where do they go? Because they don't understand problems. They don't understand implications. And most of all, they don't understand context of those problems. So as a consequence, the buyer's sitting there just going, okay, well, I don't want to talk about you and your product. But that is all SDRs can do on the phone at the moment. So phone's great. Absolutely. It's crucial. But not the people using the phone.
But here's the issue then. If I'm going to be devil's advocate for a second. What I'm hearing you say is there is a division of labor that should take place. The phone is a crucial part of that. The whole point of that division of labor is so that we can distill, the initial tire kickers from those who are really serious and pass them off to the veteran sales professional to pursue. So that way the veteran sales professional, the AE, the BDR, is not wasting their time just doing follow-ups because they're an expensive asset to be doing that. I'm also hearing you say that the SDR, the way they're today, is an abomination because they have no training, they have no ability, they're automatons adding no value. So it's almost like I'm hearing you say that, in fact, the role of the SDR has never been more critical because of the importance of the phone, because of the ability of actually getting in and trying to do some development. And yes, that role is meant to, again, reduce this volume then to this volume so I can pass it off to the senior rep. We're not doing that. We're not training them right. We're not doing, but that's a separate issue from, is the role of the SDR dead? I'm almost hearing you say the role of the SDR has never been more important, but it's how we're deploying that person is what's broken.
100%. So in the very beginning, you said how the SDR role has evolved. And
Yes.
That's my big issue. It's how we have evolved the role. It's who we decided to choose to sit in that seat. We picked the wrong people. And the reason we picked the wrong people is because we're cheap. We want to save money. This is not a cheap role. Developing your market has never been so critical. It's absolutely crucial. No ifs, buts, or maybes, but the people need to be seasoned. Oh, I hate that word. Need to have some business acumen, and they're able to talk about problems and implications. Ideally, they've done the role they're selling to or they're developing, so that they can actually understand the context of the problems and how it will implicate further down the line. If we get people that have done the role, if you're selling to a CFO, you've been a CFO, you understand what problems will be faced at some point. And then the CFO will prick up his ears, you'll nurture him over time. Eventually his problem, he'll start recognizing it, and the implications that you told this CFO will be coming his way. The moment he starts seeing some of those implications, he's going to turn around and go, that chap told me this was about to happen. I tell you what, if he's been able to sum up the problems before I even saw them, and he's been able to tell me about the implications that I can now see, do I think he's worth going back to? Because he clearly understands. I tell you what, I'd better go back to him. The person that can sum up your problems better than you can is going to make the sale. No ifs, buts, or maybes. You're first there. You told him about the problem. You told him about how this was going to implicate. He loves you. He adores you. He's coming straight back to you. You almost don't need an AE. Well, you do. Actually, you do. But, I mean, the AE is going to adore you because basically you have a buyer that's motivated. He can see the problems that you told him he was about to have. Yes, he's got them now. Oh, my God, they're playing out exactly as you told me they were going to do when you developed my market for me. Thank you. And now apparently you might have a solution for me. Is that correct? By the way, if the SDR, if the new SDR, as I want them to be, has done their job properly, the actual SDR, the SDR that develops the market, with a bit of luck and a following wind, he hasn't even introduced a problem yet. Sorry, he hasn't even introduced a solution yet. He hasn't mentioned features, hasn't mentioned benefits.
You're right. They're doing classic sales. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. Now let me change gears. I'm going to go to the next slide. We're going to look at this from a completely different point of view. So our SDRs becoming a victim, this what I call startup economics. So if I'm a company who's in startup mode, I don't have, shall we say, the budgets to have a mature sales organization where I have SDRs, I have account executives or BDRs, and therefore I'm going to rely on technology. We talked about bots and AI and stuff, and I'm just going to eliminate the role of the SDR entirely because I'm a startup, and I'm going to have a sales executive. Let's call it an SE. How's that? I'm going to have a sales executive, one person who does everything. So what that means is maybe by not having the division of labor, my more senior person does more qualifying, more outbound calling than a typical AE or BDR would do, but far less than an SDR does, because we've reduced the load with technology. And I've got one individual, and they've got the experience. They know how to position the product. Like, it's one role. Are we seeing that morph now?
So there's two people that I wanted to mention here. There's a chap called Mike Adams, who's done my favorite LinkedIn article ever. It's called Magicians, Marines and Medics. I recommend anyone should go and see it, read it. He talks about magicians are the people that go into literally new territories with a brand new product. He's there to try and define the target market, understand whom might be interested in this product, understand the problems that the actual product is helping solve. Often it's not what we intended it for. It's the magician's job to figure that out. When the magician figured out who the real target market is, who actually has a use for this product, he then writes the playbook and hands it on to the Marines. The Marines just follow the playbook. They just do. And then eventually, once they've got enough people over the line, they hand it on to a medic or an account manager. It's a fantastic article. So what you're talking about is magicians. For new companies, they absolutely need magicians to define who their target market really is, who will have a use for this. And magicians have to find the target market. They have to figure out what the problems are, the implications are, introduce the solution, get it across the line, and normally account manage it. They have to do the whole kit and caboodle. So that's a magician. But magicians, by their very nature, they have a low attention span. They like breaking new bread. They like breaking new markets. They don't want to become Marines. They don't want to just keep doing the same thing. Look, I found who we're supposed to be doing. Now I'm writing the playbook. Just give it to a Marine. Let them do it. And then magicians are off to the next new startup or to sell their product into new verticals. So that's magicians. They do have a low attention span, but they're brilliant and they're incredibly rare. We all love to think that we're magicians. We're not. There are very few of them. Now, the second person I wanted to mention was Mark Bodner, because Mark talks a lot about exactly this. He is a little frustrated with the way SDRs have evolved as well. And I know Mark thinks that we should go back to full sales cycle. And to a large degree, I think our customers will dictate that the way we're going, we're either going to have this new supreme SDR that I've sort of half described, or we're going to have to go back to full service. In other words, somebody that finds the actual prospect, nurtures the prospect, gets them across the line. We're going to have to go back to that. But, you know, the problem with this and the problem with Mark's idea about going back to that is it's inefficient. And that goes back to the division of labor. You know, the person does not have enough bandwidth. How many of those guys that are magicians that can do it all, how many of those are out there? I mean, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack trying to find a magician, let alone lots of them as you're trying to scale. You know, it's just not doable. So that's why we need the division of labor. And new companies need it as well. But it's just, you know, as I say, the role that we've got and the people we employ to do that front end bit, the development role, that's where we've gone wrong.
All right, I'm going to the next slide. And this is a real personal slide for me. It speaks to, are buyers tired of the SDR shuffle? And what I mean by that is, I'm a buyer. Today's SDR calls me up because I downloaded a white paper or something. They get me on the phone. They send me an email, whatever it is. But to your point, Martin, it's used to get me on the phone because I downloaded the paper, so I have an interest, and I genuinely do, and I have questions. And they're trying to ask me their 3 or 4 questions so they can pass me off because they've got an activity. They got to make 100 calls today. So I had this conversation with Morgan Ingram where his point of view was an SDR should ask 3 questions max, and within those 3 questions we had to pass them off. And I'm like, whoa. I'm talking to you. You called me. I'm talking to you. I have genuine interest and I have genuine questions. And I want to know if I want to put time on my calendar, because I know where this is leading to, for a half hour or an hour demonstration, Q&A, discovery, all of the above. And I don't want just 3 questions, because 3 questions may be enough for you, Mr. SDR, to know you need to pass, me, the buyer, on. It's not enough for me to know if I want to have another call with you. All right. So stop shuffling me as fast as possible to the next guy, because that's just another call. And at the time I don't have answers, and I refuse. I refuse to do that. And I have pushed back so many times by saying, no, you've got me in the call now. You've got a C-level officer on the phone. You don't get rid of me. You talk to me and ask all the questions and answer all the inquiries I have now. And so I am so tired of that shuffle. In some regards, I would welcome the ability to go past the SDR right to an account exec, so I could just have one conversation and we can either
100%.
move forward or not.
Yeah. And so so Morgan's saying that, I suspect, because he's gone down the path and he knows damn well that if he lets his SDRs talk and ask any more than 3 questions, they will be found wanting in a hurry. That's why. There's only one reason why he doesn't want them asking more than 3 questions.
You don't think it's activity-based? You think it's knowledge-based?
Well, it's knowledge-based. Of course it's knowledge-based. His SDRs don't know the answers to too many more questions, and they'll be found out. And when they are found out, then all of a sudden it's like having a fish on the hook. I've got Darryl here. He's great. He's nibbling. Oh, shit. I've asked my 4th question, and it was a rubbish question. And all of a sudden he's just like, what was that? No, you've lost him. So Morgan's saying, I think that's a knowledge thing. I really do, because you're 100% right. As a buyer, if you come across somebody and you introduce a problem that other people have got, tell me more. What about the implications? What can I expect? What does my future hold? Particularly if you're seeing the early stages of a problem, then you want to know how my competitors are dealing with this. You've got me. I'm interested. Amazingly, I do have this problem. You're quite correct. Now that you're here, let's delve a little deeper. Oh, no. I can't delve deeper. No, I can't. I don't understand any deeper. I need to speak to you to speak to an AE. So then comes the handoff, and you're just like, ugh. No, I'm here now. It's incredible. Nobody minds the handoff, by the way. If the handoff is done in the right way at the right time, people actually don't mind going from one person to another. They do mind when that second person asks all the same questions the first person did. So there's nothing wrong with a handover. But good handovers and bad handovers. And everyone hates a bad handover, but nobody minds a good handover, because you actually feel like you're going up in the organization. How do you feel when we all have frustrations with contact centers. How much better do you feel when you get past the initial person you spoke to and you're going to the manager?
Oh,
I feel like I'm getting somewhere.
Finally having a real conversation. I'm off the script.
So now I'm going to have a real with somebody that can make some decisions, and actually you like talking to that second person. So long as the second person doesn't ask exactly the same questions as the first one, you're fine with it. So this nonsense about buyers don't like handovers is rubbish. They actually quite like handovers done right. Handovers done wrong, monstrous pain in the backside. We all hate them.
I think I speak for all buyers when I say, I recognize there's a time when I'm going to exhaust your knowledge, and in that initial, screening process. I fully get that. I understand the division labor. I respect that. We do the same thing here. But again, you've got me on the phone. Don't rush me off, because you may never get me again. That's the first part. Yes, you're right, Martin. Hand me off when the time is right, and we both agree the time is right, because I can get more answers. I love that. But I actually wrote a post a few months back where I said, sales reps, if you're going to get on a call with me, please do your homework and have read the answers I gave in the last call, so we don't spend half of this call revisiting what I already told you, because I don't have time for that BS. So I love what you're saying. So what I'm hearing from all of this is, if I had a recap, I guess we'll go to the next slide. I'm going to pop up Martin's contact information here, so if I can recap all of this. So while I'm doing my best recap, there's Martin's email address. Check it out. Reach out to him. Follow him on LinkedIn. I've heard you say the role of the SDR in the construct of a division of labor is not necessarily going away. The current implementation, the current job description, the current mandate the SDR has is a waste of time, and it's frustrating buyers. And that's because they're not SDRs, they're sales qualifying reps and adding no value. They're too young, they're too inexperienced, and they don't have the right answers and the right knowledge to adequately represent your company well. What you need to be doing, if you're a believer in the function of the SDR, handing off to the AE or the BDR, is you need to be training them on the real life realities of your target persona, your target buyers. They understand the world they live in intimately, so they can actually start to help them do some discovery, some content assessment, some knowledge transfer, some true development, some initial development. With all that said, so you're not against the role of the SDR, just how it's implemented. With all that said, though, we are at a turning point where the SDR itself is perhaps disappearing somewhat because of the advent of technology like AI, like bots, like live chat, who can take away some of the classic, rinse and repeat behaviors that SDRs are doing today, which means that in many organizations, just a seasoned sales rep, sales exec, account exec is all you need. There'll be more of a hybrid. They will do some of the role of the SDR. They'll maybe perhaps do more qualifying than they would normally do, but they will own that relationship from start to end, which actually will give your customers a far better customer experience in the end. How did I do, Martin? Did I summarize that reasonably well?
You absolutely summarized it perfectly, and the only but is there is absolutely, so sales qualifying reps are dying, and they need to die quickly. So the role as we have evolved it should die, and it will die because AI is going to kill it. And the other part, if AI doesn't kill it, our customers will. But it's that development part. It's the 97% that are not yet ready to have a meeting, but we know they could and should have the problems and the implications that we help solve. That is the role that we need to actually focus on. It's developing that, because in future, that's going to be all of where we get our new business from. Because these people, what I tend to call myself is a ridiculous name, but it's a smarketeer. So effectively, what marketing can't do in terms of getting the 97% or get to the 97% and have them download white papers, come to our website so that we can qualify them through AI. Somebody has to be out there educating the rest of your market. And that is the development role. And that is crucial. And there will always be a role for that. There will always be a need for that, but we're not doing it at the moment. Call them a smarketeer, because they are a hybrid between sales and marketing. They genuinely are, but that is a role that we will require in the future. But the way we've got it at the moment, sales qualifying reps, nah, kill them. Nobody wants them.
We did a webinar a few months back about who should own the role of the SDR, marketing or sales. And I'm a big believer that it should be marketing, because marketing is just doing that education. It's just constantly qualifying. We can get to a certain point, whether it's lead scoring or what have you, qualifications. The next one is a live conversation. I think that's a marketing role. I don't think it's a sales role. So ironic you bring up marketing, because there is a definite blur from the marketing and sales side. They're truly overlapping, and that's getting more and more blurred. But that's a conversation for another day. With that, Martin, if we wanted to get to know you better, if they're intrigued by what you've had to say here, what's the best way to reach you?
LinkedIn is always by far the best. I've said that I am a big social fan, and I really am. So hit me up on LinkedIn. You don't need to personalize your request. It makes you more mysterious. If you don't, just hit me up. I'll accept you. So that's the best way. You had an email at the bottom of my details, martin.stevens@pipelinedoctors.com. If you want to get on the phone, I'd love to have conversations. So +61 418 381 829. I'll say that quicker if you want. But seriously, LinkedIn is the easy way.
Well, there's always that social phone call, as you said. Connect on LinkedIn and go from there. And away you go over to the live conversation, which, by the way, you should all be doing anyway. If you get a good connection on LinkedIn, it shouldn't stop there. Pick up a phone, have a Skype meeting, a Zoom meeting, whatever. I've had more conversations with people I meet on social, like Martin and I, that lead into a live conversation, and away you go. That's how you develop everything. All right. Martin Stevens, founder and CEO of Pipeline Doctors. Today's conversation, pretty straightforward, is the role of the SDR dead. I'm not sure we've come to a decision, but I do think we have consensus that it is definitely changing. It is evolving, and the current incarnation is neither making you happy, nor is it making your buyer happy. So either you're investing in training, or you're investing in technology, or you're investing in both. But the way it is today is a dying breed. That's it. That's our point of view. That's our conclusion. Martin, thank you for your time today. I'm so grateful that you got up bright and early there in wonderful Australia. But in the meantime, we're going to wrap it up here today, folks. We hope you have a wonderful time. We'll talk to you soon. Again, if you like today's conversation, there's many more just like this one at VanillaSoft.com. My name is Darryl Praill. Give me a shout on LinkedIn. Please follow me. I will return the favor. Until next time, I wish you much success. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.